So does Christopher Nolan's latest film, The Odyssey, live up to the hype, live up to the expectations? That is the question that we will hopefully be answering in a few hours. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Elliot here with Movie Files, giving you all just my pre-thoughts, my pre-expectations before seeing The Odyssey in about 3 hours on this Monday on the 13th. Getting a chance to see it early at a press and critic screening. So listen, man, I'm so excited for this film. Before we get into the discussions that we're going to be talking about today, I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to this. If you're listening to this on podcast or watching this on YouTube, I greatly appreciate the support. If you all can like, share, comment, consider subscribing or following the podcast, I would much appreciate that. So listen, man, behind Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 3, The Odyssey by Christopher Nolan is my second most anticipated film of the year. It's an event. I mean, there's not a lot of directors in Hollywood right now that bring in their own brand, right? Christopher Nolan, Denis Villeneuve is someone I think is on the cusp of that type of draw to the audience. I think Quentin Tarantino on a smaller scale has a buzz. Like, you get excited when you hear his name, him directing the movie. I would say Steven Spielberg still is in that conversation to a lesser degree. Martin Scorsese, those legends are still people that get people excited, that go out to the theaters. And of course, subgenres, horror genres, directors, Jordan Peele, Ari Aster, James Wan, that bring people in. But I would say Nolan is kind of in his own class. Like, I don't think people are like, oh, who's in the movie? What is it about? Oh, it's Christopher Nolan. I'm there. Like, he's that type of director, and rightfully so. He's made some of my favorite films of all time, whether you look at The Dark Knight, or my personal favorite film of his is the incredible science fiction film Interstellar, and of course Inception, and Oppenheimer is great, and Prestige. I mean, the guy has a impeccable resume. So going to this film, The Odyssey, him tackling Homer's story, knowing that has these fantastical elements of sirens and monsters and Cyclops, and it has this enormous cast, some people he's worked with before, like Anne Hathaway, Matt Damon, Elliot Page, bringing in newcomers like Tom Holland, Lupita Nyong'o. We have just such a large cast of people that I'm a fan of, and I'm just so excited to see what he brings to this story that has been told so many different times and has been adapted so many different times, but not by Christopher Nolan. So listen, man, by the time you all see me again, I would have seen The Odyssey. And by the time you're seeing this review, because this will be a spoiler-free review, you would have probably seen my out-of-theater reaction. But this is my full, not spoiler-free review after I've seen The Odyssey. Does it live up to the hype? Is it one of his best films? Are there some shortcomings? Is it not that good? We'll be discussing that and much more when you all see me again. And I hope that this is one of those movies that can be remembered, and it has like a timestamp, like, where you were, when it was when you saw The Odyssey. So when you all see me again, we'll be talking about it. But before we even get there, we do have a sponsor that's sponsoring these the videos I'm putting out this week, and that is the wonderful people over in Factor. So while I go check out this movie, check out the sponsor for this week's video, and that is Factor. Now, who out there can relate to this? Hunger strikes and you're exhausted. There's something healthy in the fridge that you should be making, but you just don't have it in you. Luckily for me, eating healthy isn't a willpower problem. It's actually a setup problem until I found Factor. I've recently been on a healthy kick, especially with the summertime coming out. You want to be outside, you want to be as healthy as you can be, and Factor has really solved my setup problem with fully prepared meals designed by dietitians and crafted by chefs, delivered right to my front door. With Factor, I'm hitting my nutritional goals this season without the planning, the grocery runs, or even the cooking. Some of the top things I love about Factor is the nutrition, the taste, and more importantly, the convenience. Factor meals are built around your goals, whether that's weight loss, overall nutrition, more protein, or GLP-1 support. Now, for those out there that's really into working out and looking for strength and workout recovery, check out Factor's Muscle Pro collection. Every meal is crafted with functional ingredients such as lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats. Factor bans 175 plus ingredients, no artificial colors or sweeteners, no high fructose corn syrup, no refined seed oils, just nutrient-dense food. Now, when it comes to the taste, I mean, we're talking fresh, never frozen, over 100 rotating weekly meals, including globally inspired flavors like Mediterranean and Asian, so there's always something new to look forward to. You all have to try the newly launched ready-to-eat salads with vibrant ingredients like elote corn and miso edamame. plus 70 plus add-ons to round out your nutrition, from green juices to peanut butter energy bites. And again, we gotta talk about the convenience because it's incredible. It's ready in 2 minutes. Factor shops, preps, cooks, and delivers straight to your door, so you have more time to enjoy the things that you love. Like I said up top, I'm a big fan of the convenience, the flavors, and it's just been a game changer for me. It's been so convenient for me, and I feel like I use this, and I just know you all would love it, and you all should use it as well. Now, here's the best part. Head over to factormeals.com/moviefiles50 off and use my code moviefiles50 off to get 50% off and free daily greens per box. Now, that's with new subscriptions only while supplies last to September 27th of 2026. Again, head over to factormeals.com/moviefiles50 off and use my code moviefiles50 off to get 50% off and free daily greens per box. Again, that's for new subscriptions only while supplies last until September 27th of 2026. I have just experienced Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. This would be my spoiler-free review, part 1 of part 2, because I definitely have to process this after watching this. But just going to get my initial impressions without spoiling anything. Before we dive into it, thank you all for watching. Like, share, comment, consider subscribing. Where do we even begin, y'all? I've been watching movies my whole life, and every now and then you come across something that you know you're watching something special. You're witnessing something unique. You're witnessing something staggering. You're witnessing a director leveling up right in front of you, and he's already given us some of the best films over his whole career, as far as Christopher Nolan's concerned. I didn't know Christopher Nolan had that in his bag. I don't want to really dive too deep into the story of it all, because you know the story of it is it's a man trying to get home. The gods are trying to interfere with that, and it's just a journey. It's an adventure. It's a horror film. It's a story about regret, trauma, the consequences of war, forgiveness, atonement. I can go on and on and on. Again, this is where the second half of this video is going to dive into more of the themes, but the emotional feeling I'm feeling right now is the investment in the narrative. The story, again, very familiar with the story. I haven't read it in years. I'm not going to lie. I'm no expert when it comes to the Odyssey, but from the parts that I remember, they really put an emphasis on touching, and this is what Nolan does, right? Whether you're in the fantastical worlds of Batman or in the Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey, he grounds all his stories, he roots all his stories in human emotions and character development. The journey we see Matt Damon go on is just impeccable. I mean, there's so many moments of performances that I was just in awe of what we were getting from all these fantastic actors. Like, you felt that every actor on screen wanted to deliver something not for themselves because they're all accomplished, but they wanted to serve Nolan's story, to give us something epic, give us something that we've never seen before. And my gosh, they did not disappoint. I was so invested in this story, man. Like, I haven't felt this way. If you guys know me, you know how I feel about Interstellar. That's my favorite Nolan film because of the emotional story of going into space and a man trying to get home to his daughter. Black holes, different dimensions. It's all about the love story of Murphy. And listen, I love Interstellar. We're not here to talk about Interstellar. We're here to talk about the Odyssey. But the reason I bring up Interstellar is because it was the emotional journey that took us on all those different spectacle, high epic moments. And the same thing is about this film. This film is so complex in the nature of what Nolan is putting in front of us, y'all. I have always been an advocate of practicality, practical effects, shoot in camera as much as you physically can. And Nolan made sure to do that. The way we feel about, or at least I'll just speak for myself, the way I talk about Tom Cruise and how he delivers, regardless of how you feel about his movies or his performances, the man gives it 110% every time he's in front of a camera. And that same amount of veracity, dedication, commitment to the filmmaking, to the audience, to the entertainment aspect of going to the theater, and the emotional moments you want to have while going on a journey like this, Nolan accomplished that tenfold with this movie. I was so impressed by so many moments. As a horror fan, Nolan, can you please do a horror film after this? Like, I want you to, he's been kind of following a Stanley Kubrick kind of filmography. I want him to do a Shining after seeing this film. There are scenes in this film that literally terrified me. The Cyclops sequence, incredibly haunting. The sequence in which we are meeting Circe. I don't want to say what happens in this scene because it is something if you've read the story, you're familiar. But if you haven't read the story, there's a transformation of sorts that was just so damn unsettling in the best way possible. I can talk about the siren scene. I can talk about the attack on Troy. I can talk about so many moments. But again, it's the story, it's the characters, it's the journey, it's the investment in going on this story that I was so impressed by. It's almost 3 hours. I never felt the runtime. This film does not suffer from what a lot of movies do these days, which is pacing issues, where it's like we can hit a certain beat, we can hit a certain tempo, we're moving and grooving, but then it slows down, we kind of lose focus, we get off track. Nolan you never feel lost, pun intended, because this is the Odyssey. You never feel lost in this journey. You always feel like he's guiding you through. He's putting you in the right moments at the right time to hit the right emotions, to hit the right beats that you need to experience when going on this journey. Hoytema's cinematography is God tier. Ludwig Göransson, Hans Zimmer's the GOAT, John Williams the GOAT. There's a lot of GOATs. There's a lot of up and coming composers that are doing their damn thing. But Ludwig Göransson's score in this movie is a character, is a lead actor within itself. The score is transcending. It's next level. Any adjective you want to put in there speaks positively to what I experienced with the score, inject that word in there. Nolan's direction, the story, the writing, the filmmaking, next to none. He won best director in 2023 or 24 after Oppenheimer. Go ahead and start to etch his name out for that second best director. I'm going to go home. I don't know how I'm going to sleep after witnessing what I just witnessed, but I'm going to go home. I'm going to try to sleep. I'm going to take some notes in the morning to really gather my thoughts, really ponder on everything I just experienced. But just know, as of 11:10 on a Monday in July 13th, I believe today is, I am so happy I was able to experience a cinematic journey. We're going to talk about this tomorrow. When you see me, it'll be a new day, but you're going to see me on the other side. I have more thoughts, but just know, as I am talking to you all right now, I'm blown away. But I will see you guys on the other side. Matter of fact, I'll see you. And we are back. I am so happy. It's a brand new day. I'm so happy that I took the night to sleep it over, to really ponder my thoughts. I took down some notes that we'll go over here shortly. And what you all saw last night was just not only a film critic, but a film fan, a lover of cinema, great storytelling. And I was excited. And I was just, as a film critic, as someone who's been watching movies my whole life, it's really rare, man, to come across these movies that you have expectations for. Even with me being a professional critic, I'm still the fan of cinema, right? And I have my expectations for certain movies and filmmakers, but it is really rare to see a movie that not just meets your expectations, but supersedes them. And that's what I saw last night with The Odyssey. So this second half of the video, will be more of I don't want to say a think piece, but more of an analysis without spoiling anything, more of a detailed, more thoughtful review. So that's what you all are going to get in the second half. And I want to pick things up where we last spoke on with Christopher Nolan and dive a little bit deeper into what was it about his direction that just really kind of impressed me. Because as we all know at this point, for nearly the last, 15 years or so, he's been redefining what blockbuster filmmaking can be. Whether it's reinventing the superhero genre with something like The Dark Knight, making us question reality and Inception, or exploring love and time through Interstellar, or turning a 3-hour biopic into one of the most gripping theatrical experiences with Oppenheimer, every film has felt like another step in the evolution as a filmmaker. As you all saw yesterday, I went to the film expecting it to be good because it's Christopher Nolan, right? His resume speaks for itself. But then, as you all saw, I walked out of the theater having experienced what I consider to be another masterpiece by Christopher Nolan. The Odyssey isn't just my favorite film of the year so far, but it's what I believe is Christopher Nolan's greatest accomplishment of his career. It's the culmination of everything he's been building towards throughout his career, while somehow introducing elements that I didn't think he had. Now, with that, I want to dive a little bit into the story elements. And the thing that really stuck out to me, and really what I took over with re-evaluating my thoughts, was how emotionally invested I was in this narrative. Yes, it's a massive, epic filled with gods and monsters and battles and incredible spectacle. But underneath all that is an incredibly human story about one man desperately trying to get home. And that to me is what gives this movie the power to just really push you through this epic journey. The thing is with Matt Damon playing Odysseus isn't chasing glory anymore. He's chasing his family. He's chasing redemption. He's trying to reconcile what the legend people think he is with the man he actually has become after years of war and loss. And it's that right there. That's the emotional core that literally grounds every single scene in this epic movie. And I want to go back to the story, but in particularly the structuring of the story, because we know Christopher Nolan is someone that doesn't like to just do A to Z, right? His stories typically, whether you go back to Memento, you go back to, Oppenheimer more recently, Tenet, Interstellar, he likes to tell stories in a way where we go back to the past to see where the character was, and we go into the present to kind of fill in the blanks. And I just love the way he does that. In this film, he really capitalizes on that structuring, and it really kind of enhances the experience. Nolan's constantly weaving between Odysseus' present-day journey and the flashbacks that just reveal everything that he's endured. It's a structure that keeps revealing new emotional context, and every flashback deepens your understanding to who he really is. Now, last night, I didn't really explore some of the criticisms that I had in the film, but I want to kind of use this opportunity to do that now. And I spoke about the structuring and whatnot, and I'm going to kind of structure this second half of the review in regards to positives and negatives. This is one of my negatives, and it's not like a detriment to the film, but it did, I would say for me at least, the first 10, 15 minutes, it took a little bit for me at least to settle into the movie. I felt like Nolan just kind of threw you directly into the world with very little hand holding. And because of that, it took some time for me at least to really kind of find its rhythm. But once it does, I was locked in, and it just really takes you on this journey, and it never lets you go. Back to Nolan's direction, this is where I think Nolan reaches another level in filmmaking. For years now, I've had a criticism with Nolan in regards to when he's doing like action movies, whether it be the Batman or even the action set pieces in Tenet and other movies that he's incorporated more action-heavy sequences. Those moments to me, while the large-scale concepts were unmatched, some of his action scenes could occasionally, in my eyes, feel a little stiff or overly complicated in regards to it's almost too pristine. It doesn't have like an edge or a tangible grit to it, right? I feel like his action scenes, especially like in the Dark Knight trilogy, minus maybe Batman Begins, but like Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, I always felt like his action was just a bit underwhelming. They served the story for sure, but they weren't always as visually exhilarating as everything surrounding them. But when it comes to the Odyssey, that criticism went completely out the door. Every battle felt enormous. Every sword fight carries weight. The scale is unlike anything I've seen from Nolan and what he's attempted before. But what shocked me even more was, and you all that don't know this, science fiction and horror are my favorite genres. I was literally floored by how scary and frightening and terrifying this movie was in all the best ways possible. There were sequences in this movie that felt like I was watching a horror film. I don't want to give away too much, but I'll just kind of, without giving context, I'll just say, for example, the Cyclops sequence. You've seen it in the trailer, you've heard about it, you've heard how they shot it practically, which still blows my mind how they were able to accomplish some of the practicality in this film. But the Cyclops scene in this film is a lot longer than I was anticipating. Number one, I thought it was going to be maybe, just like a really exhilarating 5-minute sequence. It's about 15 minutes long, and I loved every single second of it. The tension in the Cyclops scene just built so well. I was terrified during that sequence, and it speaks to the acting, which we'll talk about here in a second, but also just how he put everything together, how terrifying the Cyclops was just perfect. But speaking of perfect, Circe. The scene with Circe is by far my favorite scene of 2026 so far. That entire section feel like Christopher Nolan directed a psychological horror, the atmosphere, the dread, the uncertainty. And there is something that I cannot fathom what they were able to accomplish in that scene. I don't want to spoil it. Of course, if you've read the book, you're familiar with it. But there's how do I say this without giving too much away? There's a transformation of a sorts. And going back to my horror roots, American Werewolf in London is the greatest werewolf transformation I've ever seen. I'm not saying there's werewolves in this movie, but I'm just comparing to the transformation in that movie was a similar thing that happened in the Odyssey that just I'm like, how did they do that? How did they do that in camera? How did they do that without using CGI? Blown away. But then again, the horror that's underneath that scene and that's on the screen while it's happening is unmatched. And then you have something like the siren sequence, which was hypnotic and just filled with tension and just so unsettling. We have the whirlpool moment, which was just anxiety inducing and just I was so engrossed with what was going on. Sea creatures, giant creatures, soldiers. It's just so many moments that I just couldn't believe. The journey to the underworld, which I mentioned earlier, just the sense of dread that was in every single frame. So many moments where I just said to myself, I've never seen Christopher Nolan make movies like this. I didn't know he had this in his bag. I have never seen this from this great director. And again, it just speaks to the evolution, the growth, the commitment to giving us something that we've never seen before. He's always been great and incredible at building suspense and tension, but the blending of suspense, horror, violence, mythology, and the blockbuster spectacle together was just seamless and just a new flavor from a director that I just thought I don't want to say he peaked, but I'm like, what else does he have in his bag? And he proved, like, if he wants to do a horror film, give it to him. I always said, I mentioned the whole, Stanley Kubrick comparison, like, do a Shining if you want to do that, Nolan. Like, I was so impressed. And I also mentioned a little bit of the violence. Again, going back to my criticism with Nolan, I've never looked at him as like a cerebral, gritty director, but there are sequences that were extremely, unexpectedly violent, and I was here for it. Now, I want to transition and talk a little bit about the themes that this film is tackling, which in my opinion makes all of the spectacle work, and that is that it serves the themes. At the heart of the Odyssey is the idea of identity. It's about asking whether we're defined by our greatest victories or our worst mistakes. It's about the emotional cost of war, the burden of leadership, the sacrifices made for the people we love, the meaning of home, and ultimately, whether redemption is something we earn through our actions or something we have to forgive ourselves enough to accept. Can't stress this enough, but it's epic filmmaking with genuine emotional substance. And speaking of substance, we got to talk about these performances, starting off with Matt Damon, who I think gives one of, I won't go as far as saying it is his career best performance, but it's in the conversation as one of the best performances that I have seen from him. And I've been following Matt Damon for a very long time, big fan of his work, but he completely disappears into Odysseus. He's committing himself to whatever the character in the story needs. He can be vulnerable when the story calls for it. He could be physically believable and convincing, but more importantly, you believe every ounce of the emotional exhaustion that this man has carried with him for years. Watching him evolve throughout the story is so compelling. I was so impressed. Is there an Oscar nomination coming his way? That's something I might want to think on a little bit further, but I wouldn't be surprised. But I thought Matt Damon was incredible. Anne Hathaway, another fan of hers. I've been following her for a long time now, and I thought that she was exceptional in this film. She brings so much emotional weight and warmth to every scene and makes it matter. I am such a Robert Pattinson fan. He stole the show for me for most of the film as our villain, as one of the suitors. I thought that he was exceptional. You can just tell that he was having a good time. He was just eating up the scenery. It was a delicious meal watching Robert Pattinson just be so fantastic on screen. Also, want to give a shout out to some of the supporting characters, whether it be Circe, who I mentioned is my favorite scene in the film, who's played by Samantha Morton. You have the incredible Zendaya, who again doesn't have a lot of screen time, but there is a quiet wisdom and a presence that she brings to the character that she's playing, and the reveal of a sorts of the person that she's embodying it's a haunting and terrifying and such a sad moment when you get that moment. But I thought Zendaya was incredible. John Leguizamo, who I've been watching since I was a kid, He was exceptional in this film and had a lot of great emotional moments. You have Himesh Patel, who's essentially Odysseus' right-hand man. I thought that he was great. And I can go on and on and on about all the smaller moments and details from the performances, but everyone was pretty exceptional. Now, whether, again, I want to even John Bernthal, who has a small role, I thought was really solid. Lupita Nyong'o, forget all those haters. She's not even in the movie that much, but she left a lasting impression. I mean, she's one of the best actresses working in Hollywood. I mean, it's just so Charlize Theron was great. I can go on and on and on about these performances, but I want to talk about Tom Holland because he's great. He's really, really great as an actor. I've been, since The Impossible. I've been watching him since he was 11 or 12 years old. He's 30 years old now. Gosh, I feel so old. But nonetheless, I'm a Tom Holland fan, and I thought Tom Holland was really solid in this movie. But going back to some of my criticisms, I will say there were a handful of emotional scenes that I just wanted a little bit more from Tom, right? There's some of the more bigger dramatic moments that didn't land for me, and some of the, again, more the powerful moments that just like compared to someone like Anne Hathaway or Odysseus, even his scenes with John Bernthal, I just didn't feel like he fully gave me the moments that I wanted in the role and the arc that we see him going from being a boy to trying to get the throne and find his father, and the arc that he's on. It works, but in spots, I just like, I wish he could have just gave me a little bit more oomph. But again, he was still good. I just wish that he was great. Now, this has gone on a little bit longer than I anticipated, but as you all can see, I just love talking about movies and talking about movies that move me and movies that I feel are special. So we're going to wrap this up. A couple more things I want to mention is the final act. I believe the last 30 minutes of this film are absolutely perfect. Everything Nolan has been building throughout this film finally comes together and pays off in an emotional way, satisfying way. It's exhilarating, it's exhausting, but it is incredibly rewarding. Every sacrifice matters. Every relationship pays off. Everything comes full circle, and the final confrontation is one of the most badass sequences that Christopher Nolan has ever directed. When the ending arrived, I wasn't just impressed. I was moved. It's the kind of ending that you will remember what happens. I got emotional. I teared up for a couple different reasons, a couple different scenes involving the return of something, a particular character waiting for their owner to come back to finally let go. It's just I got emotional a few times, which is just, I know people used to say Nolan's a cold director. He doesn't have emotion. I'm like, you guys are crazy. The emotions were there, and I felt them in those last 30 minutes. Not only was it badass, but it was just satisfying at the same time. Alrighty, y'all, we have come to the end of this review. I'm going to give you all my rating here in a second, but I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you all for watching or listening up to this point. If you all enjoy the commentary, if you all like these type of conversations, if you want to support the channel, do me a favor, like, share, hype up the button for those watching on YouTube. Leave your thoughts in the comments below and stick around by subscribing to the channel today. With all that being said, my final thoughts on the Odyssey are: Odyssey feels like Christopher Nolan taking everything he's learned from Memento, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Inception, Interstellar, Dunkirk, Oppenheimer, Tenet, channeling it into one singular vision. The film is thrilling. It's terrifying. It's emotional. It's visually breathtaking. It is one of the greatest theatrical experiences that I have ever had. For me, this is Christopher Nolan's finest film to date, and one that I will be thinking about for the rest of the year. I haven't given this rating out. It's been probably maybe 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. I can't think off the top. It's been a while. I haven't given one of these out this year, I can say that, but I can't remember the last time I've given a film a 5 out of 5, with my issues with the rhythm in the first act, first 10 to 15 minutes. Tom Holland's performance not really landing the way I wished it could, but again, that doesn't take away from everything else that this film accomplishes from a technical standpoint, a direction standpoint, the way that things are framed, the score, the sequences that I fell in love with. This is a 5 out of 5 experience that I will remember for a lifetime. If you all get the chance, because I know this is not always available in every state, but if you have the opportunity to see this in IMAX, I don't normally like to say do this with your money, but if you have the opportunity, do yourself a favor and see it in IMAX if you can. It's just a more immersive experience. Seeing it in IMAX or not, definitely recommend to check it out if you get the opportunity to. But seeing it in the IMAX is one of those rare formats where it just enhances the entire experience. So I've been talking a lot, but it's rightfully warranted for a film like this. Thank you all again. Hope you all enjoyed the commentary. I cannot wait to hear what you all think. I can't wait for the haters to shut up when they see this film. If they see this, they probably will. All these people talking all this nonsense, the misogynistic, transphobic, this racist comments these last few weeks has been exhausting. But Christopher Nolan speaks with his work, and the work speaks for itself. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all stay safe, and I will see you all on the next breakdown. The Odyssey is a special movie.